for that one. Jump back to the store, and I'm going to use transporter technology to do it. Okay. Yes, the sort of tractors I really don't like too much. And the problem is because when you turn it, the front wheel goes backwards, the back wheel goes frontwards, and if you try and accelerate at the same time you're doing that from stationary, the tractor gets confused as to what's going on. There we go. So you have to make sure that your steering is positioned and it's not wobbling at all before you actually accelerate. I've had issues in the past where it doesn't work out to 114. Down here somewhere. 114, that field there. Okay, so down to the sawmill sort of thing. This tractor is... Oh, am I stuck on a car? That's a problem. So I was again trying to say, this tractor is totally unsuitable for these roads. Although it's fast enough to leave the car in our wake. Twice as fast as our tractor. Okay. So long as you keep this thing moving, the steering isn't too much of a hassle. Okay, what field are we going to again? Recall. Oh, 114? Yeah. It's kind of a long way. It's past 112, which we did earlier. So it should be just past here, yep. Let's do a line across the front. Oh, this thing is huge. Ah. Okay. Let's drop it in the ground. Wow, yeah. So that's kind of confusing. We'll go with it, I guess. Oops. This is not very easy to control. I tend to prefer the harrows to the cultivators because the working area is smaller. Although in some cases harrows don't class as cultivators for cultivation achievements. You end up having to use a real honest cultivator. Turn the blinking lights off, there we go. So that. The mini-map makes it look like the patch of that field to the left of us is actually part of this field. Let's look on the main map, see what it looks like. Oh no, that is 115, okay. There we go, that's a little bit more efficient. Really, almost none of these fields are on the cardinal compass points for being worker friendly. To do this all by hand, by eye. I don't have GPS loaded, but even if I did, I don't know that contract vehicles have GPS installed. They might do. I've also been doing some YouTube research on UK farming, and I have discovered that big giant auger wagons unloading harvesters and then tipping into trucks at the side of the field is more of an American and Australian thing than it is a UK thing. UK farming tends to use tippers like this, or probably not that, just skin, this sort of thing. Don't know. Oh, there we go. Something like that. So, what's horsepower requirement on that? Nothing. Okay. Rather than using auger wagons to unload the harvester. So while I'm using a big giant auger wagon on Lawfolds, when I move the series to FS19, I will probably switch to smaller field tippers rather than huge auger wagons. Which is a shame because I do like that auger wagon. I will still probably use augers for seed and fertilizer replenishment though. Yes, there are a lot of arable areas in England. There's a lot of cattle in the south. Sheep would be typically more in Scotland and Wales because the land is far more mountainous, hilly, and sheep do a little bit better on hillsides than cattle do. But all around where I used to live, about 20-30 miles outside London, you've got a lot of farms there. Out into the big bulge on the east side of England, just east and northeast of London, is a lot of farmland there. There is a lot of canola grown. Failing that, you're looking generally at wheat, barley, oats. The occasional corn. I don't think corn is as popular grown in England, but I think it's because the ground needs to be warmer when you plant it, and it's kind of like here in Michigan. Corn is a very late crop if a farmer decides to plant it. And also, I mean, we've got the cornfields around us still haven't been harvested, and we've already had the first snow. So that's kind of going to be an issue, I think. And that's the problem in England as well. In Scotland, they just don't grow sunflowers or corn as far as Farm Sim 17 and Farm Sim 19 crops are concerned. But there were, about 2016 or 2017, there were 2 farms selected in Scotland to try out growing corn, not for human consumption but for animal consumption. And so, taking that as a premise, I allowed myself to grow a small amount of corn on law folds, and just claim I'm a test farm that's growing corn for my animals, since I had pigs by then. A lot of root crops, sugar beets, potatoes, carrots, turnips, that type of thing. Because the fruits there grow underground, so are less susceptible to early frost or cold mornings or whatever. But down towards the south, I mean, you can, cereal crops, canola, that type of thing is quite predominant. And they do have some big equipment. I mean, a lot of the videos I watch, they're running the Lexion 580, 780, 760, whatever it is. But big class harvesters. The occasional, what is it? The John Deere S600. It's at least this one and this one. Case not so much. Oh good, I've got that loaded. That's probably going to be our harvester for this map. A fair number of Challenger tracked tractors appeared on the videos I was watching. Although most of the rest you're probably looking at sort of New Holland T7 sized tractors. The equivalent John Deere, Massey Ferguson. I don't recall seeing any Fendt tractors on any of the videos I watched. But they were all sort of 20 to 30,000 litre tippers emptying the harvesters, which is what I was most interested in researching for realism. And then to haul to the store, they're using either a tractor trailer rig or a tipper truck. They don't typically take from the farm to the store in a tractor. I mean, the difference here in America, you will tend to see the tractor trailer rigs on the side of the fields that are being harvested, and then you'll have a tractor with a grain cart servicing the harvester or harvesters and tipping into the waiting trucks at the roadside. because you don't want your trucks driving on the fields. But it's kind of funny how getting into something like Farm Sim encourages you to research real life, if you like. I've checked out Millennial Farmer, to a lesser extent Welker Farms. There's a couple of other farming channels I skip by every so often to check out. But the thing is most of the American farm YouTube channels seem to be sort of big farms with big equipment, and sometimes you want to see how the smaller farms do it. I tend to prefer the smaller farms to the big farms. Obviously, working a field like this and having a tractor and cultivator like this is kind of handy. But it's kind of expensive. And starting equipment doesn't really work too well. But you've got to think about, the big cities in England aren't, London's probably about 40 to 50 miles across, and some of the Midland cities tended to merge together during the Industrial Revolution, but there is still a lot of countryside out there. The difference is, it's not a sprawling countryside like, Iowa or Kansas. But then England isn't as, nearly as big as most of those states either. It can take you maybe a day to drive from south of England to Scotland. But to drive across England, it's half a day. To drive across Kansas, I think St. Louis to the middle of Kansas took us about a whole day and a half. I think we went from Kansas City, which is actually in Missouri or something like that, I can't remember. Then all the way across to the middle of Kansas, and then by the next day we were Denver by 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and we carried on driving till 8, so we were down into Colorado before we stopped for the night. So 2 days to cross Kansas almost. There's nowhere in England that you would it would take 2 days to get to. Not unless you got seriously lost. Now I haven't seen many of them. Most of the farmers I've watched are obviously sons of established farmers who decided, hey, I'm going to YouTube my working on the farm that belongs to my dad, but my dad's effectively retired. So he, dad's a manager now, doesn't do as much of the work. A lot of the UK videos were actually sort of drone pilots. So sort of Arthur doing a farm video in real life type of thing, where he takes his drone out and records the harvesting of a field. One of the videos I caught was a sequence of different farms throughout a single year, where he was, this guy with his drone had just gone out to farms and videoed, ploughing the fields, planting the fields, fertilizing the fields, harvesting the fields. And different pieces of equipment over multiple farms for the same job type of thing. Oh, get out of the way, get out of the way, get out of the way. Yeah, made it. I think I'm going to run along the edge here. Then we'll fill in the gap in the middle. And, oh, that's why it was so difficult to turn the darn thing around. I'm still dragging the cultivator. Come on, let's get going. I think we could benefit from double wheels on this. Although in a lot of European countries, double wheels are not allowed. I think in some cases where a farmer decides he does need double wheels, he basically has to take the workshop and the second set of wheels to the field, fit them to do the field work, and then take them all off to once he's done, so he can get the tractor back to the yard. Must be nearly done here. Oh, only 84%. And that's the back of the map. See where I'm going. I do remember at primary school we had a field trip to a dairy farm. So I think it was little more than half an hour's drive from the school. The school was in technically London suburbs, but right on the edge. So we got to see all the milking equipment, but obviously the cows get milked at 6 o'clock in the morning and probably 6, 7 o'clock at night, so they were all milked by the time we got there. I think after that my interest in farming really revolved around 1920s steam tractors rather than actually how farms worked. Hey. Still early afternoon game time, so we may have enough time to do another job. And 9:30 real time. Be nice to get up to 40,000 euros before we in the day. I don't think I'm going to do that unless I decided to do the potato seeding contract. I ain't doing that because it's going to cost a fortune in seeds. Planting potatoes uses about 100 times as much seed as planting wheat and barley, I think it is. I worked it all out on Raven Port right at the beginning at Farm Sim 19. And it's at that point I discovered that actually for Farm Sim 19 canola is the better crop. At least as far, canola uses less seed than soybeans does. I think soybeans uses about as much as wheat and barley. Again. And then they both yield similar quantities. I never fully tested the yield, but the cost of planting canola is a lot cheaper than, 10% cheaper than the cost of planting soybeans. The yield is approximately the same, and the problem with the yield is you've then got to take into account market variations in prices. So I mean I could check now. Where is it? That's soybeans, 1600. So actually soybeans are worth more. Might be worth checking yield at some point. Problem with yield is it's, to do the test, doing a planting test is easy because you can just set up the game and then get the planter in position, get the seed in position, save everything, turn off autosave, plant the field, note down how much seed you used, and then reload, select the next crop, and rinse and repeat until such time as you've tested every crop. Okay, we made 2,000 out of that. That's good. Cultivating for 1,000 near. Cultivating for 3,000. 63. Well, we've not been around there today. So let's do that. Big fence 15.